with the Skee mask formula, there just, I wish I could tell, but there really just is none. It's really just like the result of out of the stuff that I've been listening and just intuitive kind of decisions that I've been kind of making. It's a never-ending story for me, and I don't want to stick to kind of any formula. That's what makes the whole thing kind of boring or predictable. In terms of like how I arranged all my gear, it's more just like a thing of space, just like this kind of spider formation. That was the most efficient way to put it all together, I guess. So it's been between 12 and 15 years since I got all of this. The first thing was the JP8000, where I didn't even know what kind of synth it was. I really just liked how it looked, and it was just very cheap. Probably like 150 euros or something. That just kind of sets the spark. It was like a natural journey how it all came together, like all the machines, but it didn't really happen out of like necessity. It was willing to invest more into exploring like those especially kind of ancient machines that some people just have forgotten about. I would say from the money I get from shows, probably like 70% is getting reinvested back into the studio. The basic difference between the old Munich studio is literally, I guess, just the patch bay. Like now with the patch bay, I have more access to every machine that I want to use. And the way the whole studio, the room is set up, it's just more that other people can at least get a grasp of understanding the workflow a bit, and that it's more just easy to collaborate with other people. And yeah, just right away use the gear I want to use. In Munich, it was more like putting out the cables and crouching under the table to just get to the right machine or to the right connection. Like this, it's way more organized. It's still not really finished, but it was just important for me to get going again. One of my favorite pieces of gear is this Dynacord flanger called TAM21. It's a big-ass flanger. You really need to be willing to commit to buy something like this. But the sound that I got out of it, or that I'm just getting out of it when I'm using it, is just the most real kind of, in a way, like metallic sound, but in the best way possible. I've used it in probably every second or third track. For example, like on the album, I used it for the Terminal Z track, where I just used the feedback of itself. It gave the track everything I wanted. It's a very special and highly recommendable machine if you're looking for something kind of like a magical flanger. So another of my all-time favorites is a thing I bought on my first trip to Tokyo. I think it's just like a one-man project called Hikari, like that's the brand. The machine is called Monos. This is basically, it sounds like a modular system, but put together in like a small, intimate box where you can't really figure out what even the controls are doing. It's also more like finding out what it can do, and I just heard it in a shop. It was just playing by itself, and yeah, I immediately got hooked. It just does all kinds of crazy bleeps and bloopy kind of sounds. I have this in literally every track somewhere hidden as like small kind of atmosphere elements. So another machine that I also just have to mention is the Nord Micro Modular, which is probably for me the most versatile piece of gear that I own. It can literally do anything. I kind of learned from it from the UK producer Logos. Since then, it's been probably used in also every single track. You can do the weirdest like field recordings. There are like just so many patches out there as well, which you can just use for yourself that other people made when it came out, like in the early 2000s. And it even has like a stereo audio input. So yeah, you can just already imagine what you can do just with all the effects. And what other people did, they just recreated whole effect units that normally would cost sometimes more than €1,000. It's just all in one machine. Best machine ever, I would almost say. Yeah, also one of my favorite machines since a long time, probably since 7 or 8 years, is the Zoom B3. It's like a multi-effect pedal which has 3 small screens. I think it used to be made for bass guitars. I used this one on Comp Pro insanely a lot on a lot of drums to achieve a general like kind of grittiness, or just to get some interesting movement going with not paying that much money. This is the machine. So I guess the ISS-10 was more like influenced by the approach on DJing, just like techno and house inspired or based, I guess. Before it was definitely more in the breaky area, and it still definitely touches that like surface, but definitely not as much as before. It's for me like a lack in the dance music that I highly enjoy at the moment. And instead of, I don't know, talking bullshit online, which I definitely did before, I just tend to try to, I don't know, do it better my own way. And yeah, that's what I try to do with the ISS-10. The album was more just freely making tunes, just doing it in the first place, and then afterwards seeing, like looking where it makes sense to maybe release it. That's normally how those albums come together. I do like music for 1 or 2 years, and then the tracks come mostly just together by themselves.
If you weren't doing music, what would you be doing?
To be honest, I don't know, man. Like the only job I did before that was like working in a supermarket. I literally just was like breaking stuff, or was taking 2-hour-long breaks on the toilet. I really think also that like if I would have happened like later, especially now where it's so much about social media, I wouldn't have the success that I have kind of nowadays. And I think I just wouldn't have got the attention in the first place to be able to build up the fan base that I have now, which is still, every time I think about it, it's crazy. I think like, what the actual fuck is going on? Production philosophy. Try to not think about what you're doing. Break rules. Like, don't restrict yourself. Honor the whole thing a little bit. Have some sort of like morals.